Hello from the Channel studio in London and welcome to another edition of Foreign Dispatches, the programme that takes you around the world in 25 minutes. I'm Teniola Oyitayo. On the programme this week, thousands flee Nagorno-Karabakh to Armenia after Azerbaijan's military operation in the region. Plus, nearly a month since devastating floods in Libya, survivors still searching for bodies of loved ones. The lives of thousands of ethnic Armenians have been disrupted since Azerbaijan's military operation in the breakaway Nagorno-Karabakh region. Many are now seeking refuge in Armenia, uncertain if they'll ever be able to return home. Armenians had controlled the disputed region for more than 3 decades since the fall of the Soviet Union.
Albert Petrosyan is getting set to hit the road with his family again after fleeing their home in Nagorno-Karabakh. They've spent a night in this Armenian hotel. They are among the tens of thousands of ethnic Armenians who have fled Karabakh since Azerbaijani forces retook the mountainous region last month.
We drove for 2 days. My wife, daughter and son were with me. My son-in-law and grandchildren were in the other car. I don't know where they are now. We left everything behind.
The retired mechanic is here with his wife and their 30-year-old son, who uses a wheelchair and has severe learning disabilities. The family plans to move in with relatives in Armenia as the life they know crumbles around them.
We built a house in a way that everything fitted my son, who can't walk. Now we don't know where we will live. What can I say? I am angry at the entire world for just silently watching and doing nothing.
Ethnic Armenian authorities in Karabakh said on Thursday they're dissolving the breakaway state they had defended for decades. It comes after Azerbaijan announced on September the 19th that it had launched what it described as local counter-terrorism activities in the region in response to the deaths of 2 civilians and 4 police officers in incidents involving landmines allegedly placed by the Armenian armed forces. The crisis has triggered an exodus of more than 100,000 Armenians.
100,000 people are reckoned to have left Karabakh in the past week since military operations there made them feel that they would not be safe there anymore, and they've moved to different parts of this country. They've been accommodated here locally and now have moved on to many parts of the country where they're being taken care of, primarily by their relatives, by friends, also by groups who've organised through social media, and a large part of them, about 40,000, have been accommodated directly by the government. So there is no major humanitarian large-scale catastrophe here, but what there is and what there will be is a need to find up to 100,000 people new lives, new futures, new hope as they start their new lives.
Many who managed to cross the border described a difficult but necessary trek. Some fled packed into the back of open-topped trucks, others on tractors. This freelance journalist narrates how thousands of people trying to flee were stuck in huge traffic jams for hours.
As you can see, we're still stuck in a road. This exodus is unbearable, not only because of psychologically, as many people here, they are becoming refugee already 3rd time in their life. But this exodus, it's also unbearable, just literally physically, because we already 60 hours spent in this road, and we still pass approximately 28 kilometers, and it seems like even during 24 hours we can reach border.
Grandmother of 4, Noreen, says this is the 4th war she's lived through and that her husband died in the first one.
We ran away to survive. For a whole day, 24 hours, it was horrible. The children were hungry and they were crying. A child even fainted. My husband died in the First Karabakh War. He was 30, I was 26. Our children were 3 and 4 years old. This is the 4th war that I go through. That's the cursed life that we live.
This retired teacher also tells her story of loss as she faces an uncertain future. In her haste to escape, she says she did not pack any pictures of her son, who died aged just 18 while fighting in the First Karabakh War.
We were not ready for it. That's all I have now. We left with only the clothes we wore at the time. We did not take anything. No water, no food, no spare clothes. My son was hardly 16 when he volunteered to go fighting. I really struggle for words. The words escape me. I don't know what to think. Where are we going to live with our children now? I didn't even take pictures of my son with me. His photo on my phone is all there is left. I did not take anything from my home.
For Armenians, it all adds up to a national tragedy. But in Azerbaijan, the outcome is a triumphant restoration of sovereignty over an area internationally recognized as its own. Armenia has urged the European Union to sanction Azerbaijan for its military operation in the region and for assistance to help it deal with refugees.
Not only the opinion of the Armenian government, but also of many experts, also some of the EU member states, that the attack on Armenia's proper is imminent. We have presented our proposal suggestions to the European Union. First of all, that should be a strong response to Azerbaijani broken promise not to use force. As German Minister Baerbock publicly said, there were intensive negotiations prior to the attack for 2 weeks, and Aliyev promised not to use force. He broke his promise. We suppose that should be consequences for that. Failure of doing and employing this toolbox resulted in ethnic cleansing of 100,000, 120,000 of indigenous Armenian population, including my own family, from their ancestral lands.
The United States has urged Azerbaijan to maintain the ceasefire and clear the way for aid delivery. It has also announced $11.5 million in humanitarian aid for the crisis.
Number one, we want to see the ceasefire maintained. Number two, we want to see humanitarian needs addressed. That means keeping the Lachin corridor open. It means ensuring that humanitarian supplies can come in. And that it means an international monitoring mission to ensure that humanitarian needs are addressed. And I will say that we did welcome the comments by the government of Azerbaijan just a little while ago before I came out to this podium that they would welcome such an international monitoring mission. That's something that the Secretary had directly pushed the President for, and we're glad to see his having agreed to it. And we will work with our allies and partners in the coming days to flesh out exactly what that mission will look like.
Armenia and Azerbaijan have been locked in a long-standing dispute over the Nagorno-Karabakh region since 1988, culminating in a war in the early 1990s that concluded with a ceasefire in 1994. In September 2020, a renewed outbreak of armed conflict erupted along the contact line, which was later resolved through a truce brokered by Russia.
We head over to Ukraine now to meet 76-year-old Vera Chenuka, who made a 2,500-mile journey across 3 countries to get home from Russia, where she ended up at the start of the invasion last year. She's now the sole resident of a Ukrainian village in the northeast and doesn't plan on leaving anytime soon.
Ukrainian Vera Chenuka has been Dementikva's sole resident for almost a year. She says her children and grandchildren used to come here, but now there is nobody. She returned here after a 2,500-mile journey across 3 countries, from Russia, where she ended up in hospital after her village near the Russian border was bombed in February last year, on the day the invasion began. Missiles rained down outside her kitchen door.
I went back into the house. I had a bag with documents and medicines there. It was full of medicines. I grabbed the bag and a towel because I was all covered in blood. I did not know where it was coming from. I crawled into the street, and then I have no idea who found me. I woke up in a hospital room.
She spent over a month, sometimes in tears, in the Russian hospital.
Of course I was upset. I cried and cried. How would I get back home? They kept me there for a month, and then they wanted to send me to the refugee center.
Her daughter-in-law found her just in time, and volunteers tried to help them home. After a failed attempt to cross the border, they found another option.
We traveled via Latvia, Lithuania, Poland to Lviv, and then to Vinnytsia, 7 days of riding buses. But I did get back to Ukraine, thankfully.
Ukrainian forces have retaken much of the region in counter-offensives, but the damage to her home has been done. She now spends her days picking up the pieces of her terrorized town.
In Libya, nearly a month after floods killed thousands of people in the city of Derna, many survivors have yet to find their loved ones. Though they have lost hope of finding them alive, many say they won't give up searching for their bodies in order to give them a proper send-off. Abdul Salam Al-Qadi has been searching for his father and younger brother ever since a flood swept away whole neighborhoods of the Libyan city of Derna last month. He came straight from his new home in the United States and could barely recognize his hometown. This house is the house they lived when the flash floods hit, killing thousands of people. Italian rescuers and sniffer dogs have searched it, but he says he won't give up. He has scoured mud banks, asked every hospital, pored over photographs of the 4,000 bodies recovered so far. No longer expecting to find them alive, he at least wants a grave to mourn over.
What was difficult in the first few days was hope. People would say they saw them somewhere, others elsewhere. For us, it was as if they died again every day. One person would tell you they were sitting in the garden when the wave hit. Another would say, no, I saw them elsewhere. It drove me crazy.
Derna, a coastal city in eastern Libya, known as a cultural center, was built on a seasonal river that ran from a mountain range into the sea. Many survivors have yet to find their loved ones, even as Libya's rival factions squabble over who to blame for the disaster and how to rebuild the ruined city. Many face the prospects that they may never find out what happened to parents, children, or other relatives, despite efforts to identify bodies, many buried hastily in mass graves using photographs or DNA testing.
A whole city is underwater with people in the buildings. It is impossible to pull them out with the capabilities we have.
But organizing Derna's reconstruction will be complicated. Libya is split between a government in Tripoli that is internationally recognized and one in the east that isn't. Analysts say in a fractured nation, reconstruction and the coordination required could fuel another tussle for power. For KD, the priority remains finding his lost family members, a daunting task for him and thousands of others. Africa's contribution to global carbon emissions is only 4%, yet the continent is disproportionately affected by the devastating consequences of climate change. In response to this issue, Christian charity World Vision UK has taken the initiative to shed light on the profound impact of climate change on children in Africa. The event focused on the critical role of Africans in the diaspora in providing assistance and support. African philanthropy took center stage as donors and activists gathered to confront a crisis demanding global attention and action. Organized by World Vision UK, the event placed a special focus on how Africans in the diaspora can play a pivotal role in addressing the dire impact of climate change on the continent.
Is a really important moment for us. It's all about our heart for Africa. So World Vision's got more than 70 years of experience delivering programs. Now we want to come alongside and contribute to the great efforts in Africa, particularly tonight we're talking about climate change. So the African Philanthropy Initiative is about working with Africans in the diaspora, working with Africa on the continent to bring together our expertise to the great things that are already happening. So we hope tonight is about inspiring conversations, talking about climate change and the effects it has in Africa on children's lives.
Guest speaker Florence Otedola, also known as DJ Copy, shared what drives her philanthropic efforts and encouraged others to do what they can to make a positive impact.
I'm someone who believes that I'm sitting here because I was given an opportunity, and so it's my duty to also create opportunities for other people. I'm foremost a DJ, but really, I always say what I do is DJing, but what I feel is philanthropy, and that's become the most fulfilling thing for me. My love for what I do at the Copy Foundation is because I want there to be more Copies. I want there to be more young Nigerian girls that can have dreams and become women with vision. As far as the African demographic, I am obsessed with the idea of Africans helping Africans, new generations of philanthropists, Africa not being a continent that is, begging or at the mercy of others. Africans helping Africans, Africans changing Africa, and that's what I really think can happen.
A vice president of UNICEF UK, Lord Michael Hastings, who hosted the event, also highlighted the crucial role that diaspora communities can play in supporting vital initiatives across Africa.
There are macro challenges the continent has got. Vast money needs to be raised, but every individual can start with something relatively small. The last time we had a gathering of the Africa Philanthropy Initiative, we listened to a young Nigerian who's created schools in Lagos for just £3,000 for 400 children. And he's done that off his own commitment and initiative, working with philanthropic partners in the lagoon area of Lagos. So every individual can say, what can I do? How can I facilitate? Who can I invest in? What will I support? And change habits of expenditure to make it possible.
Among those in attendance was the First Lady of Kwara State and chairperson of the Nigeria Governor's Wives Forum, who spoke on the importance of the gathering.
We as First Ladies, we look after the women, children, youth, the indigent, the poor, those that don't have a voice. And it's always important for us to go to places where we can see collaboration and see how they can help in, coming to bring to bear some of the activities that they do and bring to bear to Nigeria.
We also spoke to Fola Komolafe, the newly appointed CEO of World Vision UK, who shared the significance of her role as the first woman and the first black individual to run the organisation.
It's about voices. It's about voices perhaps that weren't at the table before. It's about me coming with my lived experience. So I grew up in Nigeria. I lived in Nigeria. I've seen what poverty looks like. I've been around it. And that's a totally different voice and experience to bring into the dialogue. So for me, it's an opportunity. The need is not getting any less. But we need skills, we need techniques, and I'm hoping that through this role I can bring some more of that into helping more people. My priorities at the moment is more impact, is stretching the boundaries, is doing more, is working with partners, is working with governments, is working with private sector, is working with many organizations, partnering to do more for the future.
Is so severe.
World Vision has set an ambitious fundraising target of $21 million over the next 3 years to combat the devastating impacts of climate change and improve the lives of over 4.4 million people, including 2.7 million children. The event served as a powerful reminder of the vital role of the African diaspora and demonstrates that, even when oceans apart, its members are committed to making a meaningful difference. And finally on the program, we head over to China, where authorities are looking to curb cell phone addiction, which is a major concern in the country. The government drafted regulations in August, limiting the time minors spend on their smartphones. At just 6 years old, Arissa Yan spends 70 minutes a day on a device, leaving her mother worried.
At 6 years old, Arissa Yan is already a smartphone native, having started using the device when she was 4. Like many others in China, Arissa's mother, Val Yan, is worried about cell phone addiction among children. The government drafted regulations in August, limiting minors to a maximum of 2 hours a day on their smartphones and enforcing a ban on use between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Children under the age of 8 would be limited to a maximum of 40 minutes a day. When daily usage time is exceeded, the phone would automatically close other applications. However, Val Yan has her doubts about how such a rule could be enforced effectively.
I am not very sure how much effect you have after controlling the amount of time a child can use a phone. Because for everyone, there are already seniors and children's mode on electronic products. Since we already have this function, is there any research on how effective it is? If companies are adding this on top of the basic function, then I don't know if the efficiency can be improved.
Despite her concerns about internet addiction, she sees phone usage as an important and unavoidable part of modern society. And she worries about her daughter falling behind her peers in technological fluency if her screen time is limited too much. On the flip side though, child psychologist Sharon Yen supports the introduction of restrictions on screen time. She thinks the focus should be on parent-child relationships rather than limiting phone usage.
Parents need to try to connect more with their kids, emotionally. And I have to say that under these circumstances, a lot of parents, they're busy at work, so they might have no time to connect with their children, and their children have nothing to do, so they turn to the smartphone for solutions.
Val hopes that instead of the restrictive policies, the government will subsidize extracurricular activities for families and give children opportunities to socialize. She says a free day at the zoo or offering discounts for sport activities can offset some of the financial burden on parents. China's cyberspace regulator has not said if it will put the rules into effect, or if so, when. The proposal follows a series of measures implemented to bolster China's cyberspace governance. It began with a 2019 limit on video game playing time for those under the age of 18.
And that's the program today. But remember, our top stories are never far away. You can catch them on channelcv.com. Thank you for watching. I'm Teniola Oyetayo. Bye for now.